Hello, guys. I'm Ryan Wright.
I'm Jerry.
It's a podcast today. Fun little podcast. Sorry, I'm moving the mic around a little bit. Let me readjust right here real fast. Okay, cool. Podcast, uncut. That's what we do here. We make it very real, like the R-E-E to the L. I wanted to talk about the films. I want to call this one Best Movies of 2015, because I honestly, I made a top 10 video, and I wanted to kind of just experiment with editing, and I was like, this might be fun, so I did it over one of Veronica's songs, and I just edited, threw in footage of the movies and stuff, and I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't put it in I was contemplating, not putting it in a specific order, because it changes. Even in life, when it comes to my top favorite movies of all time, sometimes it changes, you know?
Well, I mean, the thing about movies in general is, when you get distance from them and you pick up life experiences, movies play differently.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of enjoyed The Godfather when I was a kid, but when I got older, I realized how good The Godfather is, you know?
Yeah.
It really a lot of times it does depend. What you said is a great point. It's and the comments, I think, are the most ignorant, that I hate from most. Even in life, I hate it when people do that thing of, what? That's your opinion? Fuck your opinion. Here's why your opinion is wrong. Yeah. When it's come on, man. Movies are about something else entirely. They're supposed to be there are people who are going to like it and people who don't like it. It's not a fact-based thing. Wow, it's all this noise going on. It's not like a fact-based thing. It's subjective.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the thing about it's you can break down a movie on a technical scale and reach some kind of objective opinion or an objective, truth or something like that. But I don't know, movies, a lot of movies are meant to invoke something, I guess, emotional. You're supposed to have an experience. That's why you're watching people play out an experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I was kind of trying to do it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, what are the top 10 that really stood out on the top of my head?
Well, I feel like the key to any top 10 movie list or best of the year list is just to be upfront with how you consider things. So you're not necessarily saying these are qualitatively, mathematically the best movies this year. It's your favorites. It's the ones that you thought were the most memorable.
Yeah, exactly. The ones I thought were the most memorable. I'm not coming from a technical basis. Oh my God. Hello? No, I mean Laurel Canyon. Alright, bye. Fucking woman. Yeah. Don't know how to drive. Need help with directions. It's called GPS, Veronica. She's never going to listen to this podcast. It's okay. This is the only time I stand up to Veronica.
But think of it this way. I mean, she chose to call and communicate with you instead of just touching another computer.
Or she could have yelped where the fuck Subway was, and this would have really changed this. Now she interrupted our uncut podcast.
No way to cut this down.
No way to cut this out.
Impossible.
Yeah, it's Mission Impossible Rogue Nation I put down as my number one.
Okay.
And I got a lot of crap for that. A lot of people are putting down Star Wars and stuff. The crap that I'm getting for Mission
There are problems with Star Wars.
It's just not cool. I thought I turned this off, guys. It's just not cool to be hey, this movie is not good. It's not even in the top 10. Because I'm that's just your fucking opinion. You can't force me to not like a movie with no, logical backup as to why it's a bad film.
Well, the thing about top 10s is there are so many of them now that I feel especially if you have your own name on it, if you put TheReelRejects 10 best or whatever, then you kind of have to impose a uniformity. But if it's just Ryan Wright's favorite movies of the year, personality the shit out of that list.
Yeah.
I wrote a list of top 10 horror and sci-fi movies, and I recognize that some of these movies are not qualitatively the best movies, but out of everything I saw this year, they gave me something that I particularly liked or that I found particularly valuable for me. So this is one man's picks, you know.
Rogue Nation for me, Like, there are other movies where sometimes I go back and forth. You know, in some ways, Ex-Machina is probably my favorite movie of the year. Mm-hmm. But when I think of Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, I remember the experience I was having with the film.
Yeah, that's valid.
And that's where I come from when it comes to making these lists, is what was the experience I had watching this? Not what are the technical details. Like, people complain that I had Jurassic World as even number 10.
Did they?
Yeah, okay. And I'm sure, like, I know earlier you were saying, like, if you had to, like, pick something with me, it would be...
I would argue with you over Jurassic World more than Mission Impossible.
Yeah, but, like, Jurassic World, I gladly acknowledged all the flaws that people were talking about.
Yeah.
I didn't justify the flaws.
Yeah, but for some reason it's your... But
for some reason, it was a total fucking blast.
Yeah.
What a great IMAX experience. Great 3D experience on IMAX, and it was the experience that I loved. That's what I walked away from. Was not the flaws with the movie. I wasn't like an analytical douchebag about it. I was like, this movie is just so much fun.
Well, being analytical isn't bad, but I think that's what gives your list of personality, because there are people who, you know, do appreciate more independent or more sophisticated or more complicated films, but who also at the same time, you know, get down with a good blockbuster action movie, and I think that's a valid way to do it.
I've seen more movies than what's in the top 10. One big regret that I have, and like I said, I did it off the top of my head. One big regret I have is not putting Kingsman on the list. I forgot that was this year, because it came out like in February.
We can cover runners-up if you want.
Well, it's not a runner-up. That's like a top 10. You know, like...
Kingsman's pretty rad. Yeah.
No, that's what I mean. Kingsman, the experience of that was so much fun. And I liked the characters, and it was different in a lot of ways, but it paid homage in a lot of ways. It was such a entertaining film. I love Colin Firth's whole role that he had. Yeah. You know, and I don't know. I thought it was like risky in a lot of ways, and it brought comic book movies back to a fun way. Like, it was an experience.
It kept the violence while also still being fun. Like, you know,
and it had one of the most memorable scenes of all time for me.
That church
fight. The church massacre, because they do the whole Black Betty song. Yeah. They do the entire song. You know, like, it's not like they took bits and pieces of it. I feel like they choreographed it specifically to that song.
Yeah.
You know, and it was cool, and it was very memorable, very violent, and a very important part of the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't just some like crazy action sequence, you know?
Yeah.
So Kingsman, I really wish I had acknowledged that. But real fast, I gotta get the Mission Impossible shit off my chest.
Okay.
Mission Impossible, when I watched it, I was wildly impressed. Mm-hmm. It's the 5th installment.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's hard to keep a franchise that strong, you know, on a 5th installment. Usually it's like, I got what I wanted from it, you know?
Well, yeah, how do you keep revisiting the same characters and the same types of situations and keep that fresh, you know?
But Rogue Nation, to me, was one of the best action movies I've ever seen.
Really?
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the chase sequences I thought were fantastic. Mm-hmm. The Tom Cruise's performance I thought was really cool. Yeah. Simon Pegg I thought was awesome. The girl, Rebecca Ferguson...
She's fucking great.
Was one of the coolest, like, and there's Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road, and then you got this girl, totally different, and I thought she was super badass, and I hope she returns for the sequel, because none of the women ever return. So I would like it,
and that's kind of like that's kind of shitty.
Yeah, and I would really like it if she returned.
Like, why are we down to have we gotta have Simon Pegg, Ving Rhames, Tom Cruise? Whatever, the girl, we can change her. Like that's fucked up. Like, let's find someone cool and keep her around.
Not only that, you know, like the stunts and action, all the obvious stuff of what makes it really stand out. But what really stood out to me is stuff like that's in the finale, where I'm like, whoa, this isn't some like crazy out there violent finale. It's more of like it's toe to toe with like it's a game of wit, you know,
in that cafe scene with the bomb and all that,
and that's what it becomes with the villain, is a game of wit. It's you know, it's not, it's like they have Tom Cruise has to learn how to outsmart this guy, and he never can, but he has to find a way. And it's like, what action movie is willing to do that these days?
Well, yeah, because it takes the impossibility from just a crazy stunt to like, oh, he's got to prove his worth as an agent too. Like, he's got to...
Not just a badass killer. He has to show, like, he's got the mindset to handle like such situations.
Well, and in my recollection of it, it seems like they do a decent job at least of like, you kind of know that Tom Cruise is going to be on the money in the end, but throughout the movie you're sort of like, what if he's wrong? Like,
yeah, exactly.
What if something about this is in fact wrong?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And I loved Alec Baldwin and the twist at the end. I remember with the ending twist, that was like, that put a smile on my face. I was like, that's a good twist. That's a good way to wrap this movie up, you know? Like, it ends the movie, like, the franchise could totally stop now. It could. I don't feel like they need a conclusion film necessarily. I think it could totally end. Yeah. One thing that I want the franchise to do, on a side note, is kind of toy with his age, too. But I feel like Tom Cruise looks so fucking young anyway that it won't stand out to you, you know?
It's not awkward. It's not like, we're not treating him like he's aging, but it looks like he's aging. Like, he still looks like he can pull off the stuff he's pulling off.
Exactly. And he does. He proves that because he does his own stunts.
Well, yeah, and I think that's part of why that helps, you know, is because it's like, yeah, he's doing it, so he can do it.
They don't have to do trick shots to, like, cover up the stuntman's face.
Yeah, exactly.
You can see it's Tom Cruise doing it. And that is so... awesome.
The literal manifestation of, guys, I'm not too old for this.
Yeah.
Like,
so, yeah, that movie was entertaining, surprising in a lot of ways, felt fresh. I felt it was the best Mission Impossible, and I already really liked the Mission Impossible movies. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that movie stood out to me the most. Like, it had the most personality and fun and charm that I felt at the theaters. And yeah, I felt that more than Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and Ex-Machina though, like, oh dude, that film.
I love that.
Is that on your top 10 in some way?
Oh hell yeah, it's on both of my top 10s.
That's right. I saw your horror top 10 horror sci-fi movies.
Yeah, I did one for horror and sci-fi, and then I did one for just general films of the year.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you know, I spend enough time sort of immersed in genre that you know, that's a whole category I can look at in and of itself, and then, you know, just general cinema. And I, you know, like, that's the thing about these lists, is like, you think back on a year, and especially with as many movies as we see in a year, and, you know, I'm sure other critics and stuff see many more movies than we see in a year. You know, it's like, I'm sure many critics know this even better than we do, because, you know, they see more movies. But it's like, when you look back over a year and you saw multiple movies in a month, you start to forget, like, if you just think off the top of your head, like, what did I see this year? Like, a lot of stuff becomes forgettable, and the stuff that you remember is usually the good place to start, because that's the stuff that was probably, you know, the most quality to you for some reason. And I always try to approach a top 10 list that way, where it's like, what do I actually remember? What experience stuck with me? Yeah. Because nowadays, like, everything is pitched to be so exciting, and so, you know, we're trying to build these instant classics, but really by the end of a year, I'm like, what do I remember? And it's,
yeah, because there's so many,
and it's not a ton of them.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, Ex-Machina definitely that was a very memorable experience for me this year. I was like, yes, definitely Ex-Machina. Like, oh,
Ex-Machina was something very special, dude. I never released a review for it. I watched it like a little bit before Christmas, and I was so like blown away.
This is a really cool year for sci-fi. There are 3 sci-fi movies on my list.
What are they?
Ex-Machina, Predestination, and Mad Max Fury Road.
I didn't catch Predestination.
Yeah, not a lot of people did. They dumped it into January. It's hard to describe, and it's hard to advertise.
Is that the guy who did Looper?
No. The Spirig brothers who did Daybreakers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, Rian Johnson did Looper.
Yeah, Rian Johnson did Looper. The Spirig brothers adapted this Robert Heinlein short story, and it's got to do partially with this, I think they're called the Temporal Bureau. Basically, they're trying to stop crime using time travel, essentially. But it's a period piece, so it's not quite as futuristic as everything. Like, it's,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's like time travel's invented in 1985.
Cool.
And so that's kind of where things start out, and he's trying to stop this bomber, but there's a whole other subplot that comes in with an incredible actress named Sarah Snook, who's just fucking great in this movie. But it was cool to have those 3 movies to me, because they're all kind of sides of a coin. It was like, I saw Ex-Machina and I saw Mad Max, and I was like, these are both, like, sophisticated sci-fi movies for 2 completely different reasons. Yeah. And it's like, they're similar in the way that they deal with the human condition and with, you know, gender and stuff like that. at least how they walk around and sort of comment on those things. But, on the inverse, Mad Max is very laconic. There are very few words, but it's very physical, and it's a very real idea of a dystopia and a real sort of theory as to why it would be that way. And Ex Machina is very verbose and very intellectual. Yeah. It's kind of the opposite version of the future, but they're both dealing with these very primal things.
And they all have surprises, and they blow you away.
They're all tense, and they're all, And
you walk away knowing the characters too.
Yeah, totally. And so that's why like Mad Max was really cool because it was a physical sci-fi movie, but with a lot more worth and weight than a lot of the noisy, action sci-fi flicks we get lately. And then Ex Machina was like a really cool return to science fiction, like really idea-driven science fiction that was also human. And then Predestination is very metaphysical, and it deals with paradoxes and like the more theoretical aspects of science fiction and time travel, but in a scientific way.
What would you say is your favorite movie of the year?
That's really hard, because like especially if you watch something again, you're reminded of like, I got to see Mad Max at the New Beverly a couple months ago, again, and it was just like,
And sometimes you'll like a movie more the second time you watch it.
Yeah, or you'll notice more things. So it's like I saw Predestination again just the other day, and I was like, man, this is such a great movie. Like, I really like this movie, and it's strange and it's hard to wrap your mind around, but in a really cool and very human way. Like, it's the kind of movie where I got 10 minutes in and I was like, oh, they're still having this conversation. This is a different kind of movie than I thought the trailer would give me. But I don't know, favorite movie of the year, I think is still A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
I did not catch that, and I saw you put that as number 1 on your horror sci-fi list.
Yeah, I mean it's a very strange sort of out there movie. It's a vampire western, new wave neo noir thing.
Why is it your favorite?
It was like the most different sort of interesting thing. Like it was at the center of it all is a morality tale and a sort of twisted little love story. Like, it's not the most complicated movie I saw all year, and it is very stylish, but in a way that I'm not used to as much now. It's very sort of stylish in a atmospheric sort of subtle way. It's all in black and white.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's it's like Iranian. And Elijah Wood's company produced it, and they shot like in Lancaster, but it's basically supposed to take place in this like Iranian slum.
Yeah.
And the woman who wrote and directed it is now doing The Bad Batch, which has like a bunch of people in it, like Joe Manganiello and Jim Carrey and all sorts of people. It's like a cannibal love story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but Girl Walks Home was just like, there was so much mood, and it was very sort of creepy but kind of poignant and beautiful and strange, and it was just so many things, and it was so immersive. It really made me feel.
Yeah.
And it was also expressive and original and strange, and I don't know, I was so enamored.
I'm getting a lot of crap on for my list too.
What's that?
Inside Out.
Why? That's on my list. I loved Inside Out.
That was surprising to me.
Why?
That Inside, I don't know, people were just like, it's overrated, and stuff. And I watched it, and I thought it was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so imaginative.
Yeah.
And it's so creative in the sense of, like, exploring the mentality and giving it character, and like, it was trippy. It was a trippy movie the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm having a hard time, like, really being invested at times, because it's kind of causing me anxiety, because it's like, it really deals with the mind.
Yeah.
And it does it in a way where kids can understand it, and kids can learn from it, like, and adults can learn from it,
it teaches a sophisticated message nowadays. It's like, I had an argument about this, not an argument, but like a discussion about this between The Good Dinosaur and between Inside Out this year. And it's like, I think The Good Dinosaur makes something good out of a story we've seen a million times, but this, like, Inside Out basically takes a lesson that I'm not used to seeing. It's like I liked it for a similar reason I liked Paranorman, is because, like, the message at the heart of these movies is not just be yourself, or believe, or
life is not light. Life is light and dark, and you should embrace your emotions.
Well, yeah, it's like this movie is basically going like, no, it's important to be sad sometimes. It's important to feel things that aren't just happy.
Yeah.
so that you can be a well-rounded person, and so that, you know, it's like you wouldn't be happy without sadness. You wouldn't be...
And it shows that anger can block you off, too.
Yeah, and joy can block you off.
And yeah, exactly.
Because that's part of, like, the whole point is, like, you know, joy keeps being like, no, I got this, we're gonna do this.
It's like joy's in denial of such... Because, like, people do that. It's like... People will, especially nowadays, dude. Yeah. People are so like they'll watch like The Secret, which is wonderful. However, if you're living in La La Land, where it's all positive, and anytime something negative happens, it's like, nope, just gotta think positively. It's bullshit, you know. Like, and I feel this movie's great at acknowledging certain things that I feel we need to be more aware of. And it's great that they did it in a way where kids can understand it, because it's most important for kids to understand that.
Yeah, it's like nothing's wrong with you if you're sad. You should be sad. Sometimes sadness is a valid and useful emotion.
Yeah.
And, you know, 3/4 of the way through, that's kind of the point for joy is to go like, hey, you don't got this right now. You don't have to just shower happiness on everything, because that's not going to make things better in the long run.
Yeah.
And that's very now, because nowadays it's like we have this sort of aggressive inspiration porn where it's like, never question yourself, you're fucking awesome, go crush it. And I'm like, well, sometimes you have to like question yourself and allow yourself to be sad.
Life should be gray. It shouldn't be, you know, just black and white.
Well, life should be a spectrum of colors. It should be a changing spectrum of colors.
Yeah, that's a much better way to put it, yeah.
You know, that's why they're all color-coded.
And that's why they're all color-coded, yeah.
You know, and that's why memories are, you know, it's like you experience the range, and that's how you become a functioning, you know, healthy human being. You know, a well-rounded human being.
You see, this is what I mean. Now that I'm talking about it, I wish I put it in, like, my top 5.
Yeah.
I had it as number 8 at the time when I made the video.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's my top 5, though.
Like, I like, this movie made me cry a lot. Like, it is like...
Yeah, I fucking bawled at the end.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I mean, it takes a very sort of emotionally resonant idea and adds some pretty heavy stakes to it. I mean, it's perhaps the heaviest stakes of all. It's like this is all taking place in somebody's mind. Like, this is the foundations of a human being's existence.
Yeah, I thought they portrayed that very well without, like, going... Like, the girl close to the end of the movie was, like, making decisions where I was like, that's kind of brave in some ways to make the kids sort of go down that route. And then have it come back, then the ending conclusion of her character.
Well, because that cuts through like everything. It's like you can relate to like a child being truly lost.
Yeah,
like, you know,
wanting to do what she did.
It's a credit to the animators, because when they actually reached depression for her, that look on her face is like, oh shit. Like it made me think like, like that is the fit. Like, you know, because it's not even sad anymore. It's just kind of empty. Like, and they went places like that, which I very much appreciate.
What else is on your list?
What else is on my list? I saw another animated movie this year. I guess we're doing these very much out of order.
Yeah, no, this isn't in some fucking specific order. Like, that's the whole point of this podcast, is that you really can't do that.
Well, because they have an idea of what your order would be, though. Because, like, I've never been very good at ordering a top 10, because all the movies are different. I like them for different reasons.
Well, I try to just whip it out. That way whip it out. I try to just, like, you know, quickly do it. That way I'm not, like, overthinking sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, then let's see what's next. So we've talked about A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. We've talked about Ex-Machina. We've talked about Mad Max: Predestination. A whole lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
And Inside Out. Anomalisa was another.
Oh, you caught that?
Yeah.
Dude, oh man, I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to watch it yet.
Oh man, it's playing around town.
Dude, I really want to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Charlie Kaufman is, first off, one of my all-time favorite writers.
Yeah.
So I know that he did that Synecdoche, was it?
Oh, Synecdoche, New York.
Whoa, got that word wrong. Yeah, I know he did that, but it didn't get like the best feedback, and I didn't personally enjoy it too much. Okay. And that was his like directorial debut. And then I heard he directed this one too, which is fucking amazing, and it's getting incredible reviews. The trailer blew me away.
Well, this one's co-directed, and like he co-directed it with a guy who I think works for Starburns, who is Starburns Industries, does a lot of the stop motion animation stuff on Adult Swim.
And there's nothing wrong with co-directing it too. Like, that shouldn't take away credit from it, because...
Oh, no. I'm saying, like, it's kind of cool because you get the sense that Charlie Kaufman is a very you know, his movies are very sort of emotional and kind of melancholy in a very specific way, in a very sort of lifey way.
Yeah.
But like with a touch of surreality. So it's like he can really sculpt these little emotional performances, and he's also got a co-director whose whole thing is stop motion, whose whole medium is visuals. So you put those together and it makes a great whole.
Oh, dude, I'm so jealous. I really want to watch that movie.
Well, and I mean, I didn't really know much about it going in. I didn't really know exactly what it was about, other than like I knew it involved, you know, stop motion and kind of sad discourses on love. But it's a lot more things than that. It's very raw. It's a very raw movie to watch. You know, it's because it makes use of the fact that it's animated pretty well. Where it's like they mostly look human. They look pretty close to human, but you can see like the seams where the bottom half of their face and the top half of their face would go.
Nice.
So it calls attention to the fact that this is stop motion. It's not like trying to... It's like if you watch Fantastic Mr. Fox, everything is kind of not trying to let you know that. But there are moments in this movie where things get surreal and actually like the pieces start to come off and things that are very jarring.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, dude, that's crazy. Oh, I want to watch it.
Yeah, it's that weird kind of, you know, Charlie Kaufman's sort of really good at making this movie that starts out being just a series of mundane situations, just like, oh, he's on this business trip and he's talking to the cabbie, and the cabbie's kind of silly, and then he gets to the hotel and he has to deal with the concierge, and it's just all these tiny little moments, but that are somehow made so human because they're translated in a literal way in the visuals and their choices of sounds. Because like there are only 3 voice actors in the whole movie, which is David Thewlis is the main character, Michael Stone, and then Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Oh, cool.
Is Lisa, and then everybody else is voiced by Tom Noonan. So everyone has the same voice.
Okay.
In this guy's world, because that's how sort of just detached from everything he's become.
That's fucking brilliant.
Like,
Charlie Kaufman blows me away with his stories.
Yeah, man, this movie was like a pilot. It was like I felt like it knocked me over a little bit.
I think Eternal Sunshine is one of my all-time favorite films.
Yeah, I want to watch that one again.
But then I watch like Adaptation. I'm like, wait, never mind, Adaptation. And then I watch Being John Malkovich, and I'm like, wait, no, Being John Malkovich.
Because he's so great at doing these like slightly surreal or heightened situations, but putting this like very raw, very human element onto it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, and it's like it's just not the kind he finds the beauty and the struggle in these mundane situations that you would never even see in most movies.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't just see this guy's day. It's this weird sort of oxymoronic thing where it's both mundane and profound.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I felt the shit out of this movie.
What else do you got on that list? Did you put Creep?
I didn't see Creep. Oh, Creed or Creep?
Creep.
Creep is a runner-up for me, just because like jumping over from... I debated about having it on my top 10 list because I really liked it. Like I didn't know much about it other than, you know, it was a Blumhouse movie and Mark Duplass was involved. And I watched it, and that was just such a fun surprise because it's totally different than your average found footage, and it is playing with your expectations of found footage.
I like movies that do that.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, Mark Duplass does this very sort of naturalistic improv style with a lot of his movies, and you get that sense. It's like you're just kind of watching 2 guys over the course of a situation, but the things that it finds creepy within that are altogether more creative. And the way it treats, like, the horror movie stuff is kind of silly. So like it's a really different kind of found footage movie, which is also why some people didn't like it, because they're like, oh, this is scary, you know. But if you want to see something that's like that tweaks it in a cool way and a thoughtful way, and you know, I don't know, I like
that kind of like makes me, because one of my runner-ups is The Visit.
Okay, see, different sides of a coin.
Yeah, and The Visit was one of those movies that totally wasn't. It messed with my expectations in such a delightful way.
Yeah, totally.
Like, I thought it was so fun. It was fun, scary, you know? It wasn't like trying to be this serious, scary movie. I liked how it was like there were fun scares, you know? And it like, you'd be laughing but be scared at the same time, you know?
Yeah, it's having fun with you, and it's acknowledging certain things. And I think that's what both of those movies do well in entirely different ways. They both bring in humor, but not where you're expecting it to be.
Yeah, you know, that's cool. That's really cool.
So yeah, just Creep does it in a different way for me. And Creep was also like, I debated on, you think of types of movies that might fit the slots of your top 10. And Creep was the one where I'm like, This is really subtle and kind of lo-fi, so it's not super flashy.
Yeah.
In the way that it's good and I like it. But I kind of want to include it because it's not super flashy. Like, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a close runner-up on this list.
Is Hateful Eight on your list?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Yes.
Hateful Eight. Right now, Hateful Eight is like number 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and again, like these will change. These ratings always change. Like, I never know how
I
to
feel
rate
like with
them.
a second viewing, I would probably rate Hateful Eight even higher.
Maybe it plays very differently the second time.
You saw it twice?
Yeah, I texted you about it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Because the second time I was watching it, I'm like, I don't think he did this. Like there are moments like that. You pick up harder.
Oh, that's why you were talking to me about it. Okay, yeah.
You pick up harder on the mannerisms and certain things people are saying, and so you think to yourself, okay, so knowing what I know about these people, that's probably a lie, but this could be true, actually, and that thing I thought was true before I think is now a lie.
Oh, damn, there are questions I want to ask you then.
You know, so it's, there were things, maybe go back a couple minutes and cut out that one detail.
Well, that's the thing with the Hateful Eight. That movie gives you an experience, especially in the theaters. You know, that it's like some people might be like, well, if you didn't go to the special ArcLight thing, it might not be as good. But then I'm like,
it might not be.
It doesn't matter. That's like the way Tarantino really wants you to watch it.
Well, and I don't know how they'll do the release of this on home video or whatever, but the things that made it special to be there for live will still be on that DVD.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, there was a cool thing in the lobby, and then we saw it, and it was magical, and they gave us free popcorn. It's like, the overture and the intermission are still there if they release that cut. You know, it's like, you can get the visual appreciation off of that from something older, something people used to do that we don't do anymore, you know?
Their intermission of Hateful Eight, the intermission of Hateful Eight, had a more powerful ending scene, had a more powerful scene.
Yeah.
Like prior to the intermission than a lot of movies that end with like that are part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
You know, like when they split a movie in half.
Yeah.
Like when it cut to intermission, people were like so hooked. And then it cuts intermission at the perfect time. Like perfect time to get the whole audience talking.
I wonder if Kill Bill kind of made this possible in certain ways, because it's of all of his movies, it's very much not like the Kill Bills of his career, but like, I wonder, like if you've seen the whole Bloody Affair cut of Kill Bill, like the place, you know, they recut certain things so it's not meant to be 1 and 2. It's one whole movie.
Yeah.
And I think there was an intermission. And I think it's that same sort of thing where they cut on just the right moment to have there be like a crescendo that gets you really excited, and then you really want to see what's next after the intermission. And then like the styles change a little bit because the story progresses somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like I wonder if he had that in mind going into the Hateful Eight, because like it works really well in the Hateful Eight.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, when that intermission came, and then the way it comes back with a bit of more of like a groovy, like, okay, now the movie knows that something's going down too. Like, you know, I thought it was cut in half incredibly well that way.
Yeah, and I could see why he thought he could adapt it into a novel.
I was like, these are our two halves.
Yeah.
Of the same story, but they are two different halves. You know?
Oh, totally.
And it communicates
Totally.
that really well.
Shit goes down in that movie.
Yeah, it does. Well, and also it kind of fills my spot for things that are like, you know, it's kind of art made out of ugliness, you know?
Oh, totally.
Because it's like all these characters are sort of ambiguous morally, and there are multiple characters who will embody both things that you really detest in people and things that you really admire in people. And so, like, it becomes this weird, you know, ugly character study that's also got a lot of rhythm and pulp.
I'm curious to know what your other ones are.
Okay. Let's see. Bone Tomahawk I put on my list.
Did not catch that either.
Bone Tomahawk.
It's Kurt Russell movie, right?
Hell yeah. Yeah, I think they must have filmed pretty close together because he's got like the same mustache burns.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not as like scuzzy as.
Does he play John Wayne again?
No, he's a little more subdued. He's not like big.
Okay.
I mean, Kurt Russell, like, you can kind of argue that he is a kind of a John Wayne type in certain ways anyway, but like in Bone Tomahawk, it's a very straight performance. Like, it's a very earnest performance. And Bone Tomahawk, I don't know, there are a lot of like weird pairs on my list this year, but yeah, Bone Tomahawk was really cool because it is just it's a Western that happens to be also a horror movie.
I heard it's like like it honors the Western theme in a way where it's like a Western, you know, like
yeah, it's very straight. Like I regard it as being a horror movie in the sense that like the way any horror movie takes place on a normal day that's about to become not normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this has that. It's just like on a normal day in the 1800s. You know, just because of where it's set. You know, it's still a normal day in that society, and then something strange happens. And so it does feel horror-y to me. But yeah, it's also just a straight Western because it's like they have to go... They basically are on a search party to find Patrick Wilson's wife. And it feels like the old... Like, it takes its time. They don't brush past that journey. The journey is as perilous as the rest of the movie. And the people together are as perilous to each other in certain ways as the rest of the movie. So, like, it's very Western in that sense. It's like you're traveling with a band of you know... people on a mission, you know, there's gray justice and, you know, and it explores the side of that world, you know.
Dude, I fucking love Westerns.
I do too, yeah.
Westerns it's like only a Western, you know? Like Westerns have such a specific type of vibe and movie and like the mood it creates. Everything about a Western is just puts you in a different world that it's like close enough to reality.
Yeah.
But some stuff is probably, you know, pretty fictitious. I don't know, actually. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you look at Bone Tomahawk and you look at Hateful Eight. Like, Hateful Eight is kind of like The Thing meets Reservoir Dogs, I've heard some people say. And it is. Like, there are certain elements that are horrific like that. And whereas Bone Tomahawk is kind of like... It is a Western meets something else, you know?
Yeah, I
so
get
like
what you're saying.
the styles are different there, and it's really well done. It's really well written. It's very like sparse in the way it's captured, but great. Like it does that Western thing where it really takes advantage of its locations. So they'll have these giant sprawling shots of them traveling somewhere, you know, just to establish the scenery. And the cast is really good too. Like Kurt Russell's great. Patrick Wilson's really good. Matthew Fox from Lost is fantastic.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. He's really good. And Richard Jenkins.
No way. Richard Jenkins is in that?
Yeah, and he's almost unrecognizable. Like, he's so good. Like,
I love Richard Jenkins.
Yeah, Richard Jenkins is one of the main characters, and he's so good. There are also a couple cameos that are at the beginning that are unexpected in a kind of cool way.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the way it does it, and then the kind of movie it is, like, it was a really cool experience. Like, it takes its time. It's not a flashy movie, but it's really well done.
It's cool that Kurt Russell's like in two Westerns at the same time.
Yeah. And, I mean, the guy who did Bone Tomahawk, I mean, he's done some cinematography and stuff, but he's mainly, I think, a novelist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's written a lot of novels, and this is his first writing and directing gig as a filmmaker. So it's, you know, you kind of have him and Tarantino on a different side, as Craig Zoller and Tarantino are on different sides, because it's like, this guy, I think, wanted to make movies and got into books, and now he's finally making his movie, and you know, you might have Tarantino on the opposite side of that.
Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, you know.
Oh, kitty.
Oh.
Kitty.
Hey, bud.
I'm dying to know what your number one is.
We've already talked about my number one.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, these are all out of order.
These are all out of order.
We jumped in because of Mission Impossible and everything. We just kind of jumped in and just sort of discussed our favorite movies out of order.
Did you, did you do 10 movies already?
Okay, I guess we can recap. I guess we'll do this in a weird way. It's like, I'll recap the ones we've talked about. And then,
yeah.
At least for my list, because people know your list. Okay, so... A Girl Walks Home... This is the order as I have it right now. It's like, A Girl Walks Home Alone is my number one. At number 2, I put as Ex-Machina this time. Number 3, Mad Max. Number 4, Predestination, although I kind of hesitate to lump 3 sci-fis together. I feel like they should be interspersed. So I might rewrite this list. And then 5 is the one I hadn't gotten to talk about yet.
Which is what?
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, is that the guy from Flight of the Conchords?
Yeah, which I might bump up to number 4. I don't know.
That
like
vampire film?
Yeah, like it's hard comparing all these movies, but What We Do in the Shadows was such a fun treat. Like when Jump Cut was still open and I worked there, my boss was from New Zealand and he got a copy of the movie and we screened it before it played here. And, you know, it was just so much fun because I knew very little except, like, Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi were involved. And I saw it and I was, like, I almost couldn't stand behind the counter because I was cracking up so much.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, it's just about 4 vampires living in Wellington, and they're all, like, kind of over 100 years old. But it's kind of taking that as though it were just a real situation, so it's like, these guys are roommates. They do argue over who does the dishes and stuff, but they also go out at nights and, like, try and prey on people in clubs and stuff, and then they're, like, organizations for them. Like, it's like what the most realistic version, but with some vampire fantasy thrown in.
Yeah, I heard that movie was a blast.
Yeah, and it's like, it's fun because like it's also tight because, you know, it's a very improv heavy comedy, but they never beat a joke into the ground. Nothing outstays its welcome. It's only like 85 or 90 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, it's nice to finally see
I wonder if it's on Netflix.
It may be now, or Hulu or Amazon.
Because I really did want to watch that too.
It's so much fun. Like, that's the thing, is like it's an improv heavy comedy that actually had an editor.
Yeah.
So like, it moves nicely. Like, it was just such a treat. Like, it's so much fun, and there are like so many great quotes, and there are so many fun characters and clever little things, and it's totally quirky and weird, but it's just so much fun, you know.
Yeah.
So much fun, so creative. So yeah, and then Anomalisa, Inside Out, Bone Tomahawk, Hateful Eight, and the last one on my list was End of the Tour.
What's that one?
That's the one with Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel, where he plays David Foster Wallace.
Yeah, I remember that.
Like, that was a movie just about 2 dudes talking the whole time in different places and under different, you know, sort of circumstances on this book tour. But most of the action is 2 dudes talking, and it's great. Like, it was entertaining, but it was also engrossing, and it was also, you know, kind of poignant. Was
it funny?
Yeah, very funny. Like,
I think that's on Netflix.
Like, it's not comedy per se, but like the nature of who, you know, these guys are, there's a lot of quips and a lot of humor, you know.
Jason Segel is quite interesting to me. Because I think he's grown as an actor. Yeah. But on How I Met Your Mother, it always seemed aware that he was on a sitcom. Yeah. Because he goes for more of like I love him and I love you, man. Yeah. He goes for more like the dry kind of humor in movies. But then he was on this sitcom where he was really in a sitcom. So it's kind of strange to me how his acting in that was much more heightened and stuff.
I almost had wished that, like, he'd played Marshall Erickson as, what's his name? On Freaks and Geeks. Yeah. Like, if he'd played a little more like that character just grown up, that might have, maybe he would have been a little more natural.
Yeah, because especially after watching him be more natural in movies, and then going, I want to check out How I Met Your Mother, was like, interesting.
Well, but he's playing a different kind of role there, like.
But what we do, but not what we do in the shadows. What's it called?
End of the Tour.
Yeah, I think that's on Netflix. I gotta check that out too.
Yeah, I really liked it, man. Like, and I didn't know a lot about David Foster Wallace or about Infinite Jest, which is the book he wrote, and, you know, much about the circumstances of his life, other than he, you know, committed suicide and stuff. But you know, it was such an interesting movie to see, and it was also very enjoyable. It had a lot of rhythm. It was nicely shot. Like,
do you see Jason Segel's penis?
I don't think so. No.
No.
I don't think so. I can Google it though, if you want me to.
Yeah, I would like to see it again.
I can check.
You won't forget that, Marshall.
No, you won't.
Yeah.
I like How I Met Your Mother.
I wonder he's willing to do that for comedy. He has a huge dick.
No. He's got a penis.
Fucking Jason Segel. Anyway, guys, yeah, that's our podcast for today, discussing some of our favorite movies of 2015.
Oh, did you have any runners-up or anything? Or?
Runners-up? Yeah. No, I just really wanted to mention Kingsman. Okay. Do you have runners-up?
Maybe a couple. I mean, like, these were things that at least wanted to mention. Because, like, I really liked Krampus a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
A lot of people describe it as being, like, kind of like Poltergeist meets Gremlins. And it was nice to have that kind of movie again, and to be sort of so much fun and also kind of dark in the way that Trick or Treat is. Like, yeah. Like, I thought they did a real good job with Krampus.
You know, Ant-Man actually surprised me. Okay. You know, a lot of people were like, where's Avengers? And I'm like, I didn't even consider putting that on my top. Not that I hate the movie. Yeah. I think it's a really fun movie. Like, it's a total blast, but I didn't ever have a desire to go back to the theaters and watch it again. Yeah. You know? Avengers, but when it came to Ant-Man, that movie, like, genuinely surprised me. Marvel felt fresh. It was its funniest movie I'd ever seen from Marvel. You know, comedy was like one of the genres of the film. Okay. And so Ant-Man to me was a strong consideration when I was trying to compile a list together.
Okay. Goosebumps was like a fun runner-up for me, just because, like, you know, it's Goosebumps, but they did it kind of the perfect way. And, like, I don't really get bent out of shape about, like, oh, my childhood. But, like, you know, Goosebumps I was a big fan of. So I was sort of like, you know, I hope they do this right. And I was just so... That was the one where I just had so much fun that I felt like a kid again. Like, I thought they handled that perfectly.
Oh, and I really like Ride Along.
Well, you're in luck, because Ride Along 2 is just
right around the corner.
Yeah, get on board that Ride Along train.
50 Shades of Grey was great.
Okay.
And everyone's on board for Chappie. Everyone pretty much knows.
Hey, I like Chappie a lot.
Like, I like Chappie too.
I don't think I'd put it on my top 10, but I did like Chappie a lot more than most people did.
Yeah, me too.
Like, maybe, like, I get the sense, like... Not the sense. I get that maybe what's his name? Hugh Jackman's performance is a little too big.
No, Mel Gibson.
Yeah, Mel Gibson. Hugh Jackman's performance is maybe a little too big for that movie, but as a whole, I really like what he did with that.
Oh, and I think Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Yeah.
Shout out to David Henry. Should be on there too. That would be good.
There's a horror movie I watched that is on Netflix called Let Us Pray that was wicked.
Really?
Yeah, it's like an Irish horror movie.
Oh, San Andreas, that was like everyone's favorite, number one on the list. I believe every critic put that movie on there.
Mathematically perfect.
The Entourage movie didn't disappoint critics. And
I know you were looking forward to that.
And Ted 2 was a really strong follow-up sequel that provided something super fresh.
So strong, I almost bought you like a Ted bauble.
And Terminator Genisys, as James Cameron says, it is the true Terminator 3 in a lot of ways.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun, but I
hey,
wasn't.
Dude, trust me. I'm quoting people. And Fantastic Four, you know, it had its struggles on set. It wasn't perfect, but overall, I see why critics and audiences really like the movie.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Like, without Fantastic Four performing so well, Creed wouldn't have performed so well.
Yeah, exactly. People were like, oh, we gotta check this movie out.
Yeah, dude.
The fucking Fantastic Four.
Oh, and I love the reboot of The Transporter.
Oh, man, why that guy left Game of Thrones, too?
Yeah, dude. And that awesome thriller that's like Fatal Attraction, but with black people. The Perfect Guy.
Hey, we like The Perfect Guy.
Yeah, that's true.
We like that trailer anyway.
And
see The Perfect Guy.
And Pan wasn't disappointing.
Not at all. Those kinds of movies never are.
And I thought Paranormal Activity, the Ghost Dimension ended on a perfect note.
Like, you didn't even see Paranormal Activity Ghost Dimension.
Oh, I sure did. And if you watch my review for Spectre, you'll see I clearly love the movie.
Yeah, totally. Nobody argued with you about that.
Yeah, no, totes. Oh, you know what I should have put on?
What?
The Night Before.
I did enjoy that movie.
I was genuinely surprised by that. Like, I wasn't expecting to laugh at all. And then there were parts where I was really cracking up.
I was expecting it to be okay. And it was okay to me, but there were certain things that stood out as being like, man, I really like that, like, you know, little emotional moment, or I really like that, recurring joke. So, like,
yeah.
The movie is kind of a mess to me, like in terms of, like, the way the story moves, but those characters are so much fun to watch, and, like, Michael Shannon is fucking incredible in that movie.
Oh, and how could I forget?
Like, it's weird, but in a kind of cool way. Like, it throws in these ideas it wouldn't normally.
This movie, this year, ended on a really strong note with the remake of Point Break.
Oh, yeah, totally loved it.
I love how they modernized a film that was not too long ago.
I like how they remade a film that, you know, kind of relies on Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, and Gary Busey in specific, and then remade it without those people.
And it's crazy
how...
how...
you can get Patrick Swayze.
It's crazy that, you know, they didn't just cast Keanu Reeves in it, because evidently he still looks like he can just be a continuation of the same character, because he doesn't look bad for his age at all.
I just want to know, like, who looked at Point Break and was like, people want to see this story over again. It's like... people love that movie because of the people in that movie.
Yeah.
Like,
the story's been done to death.
It's not the same without Keanu Reeves, like Patrick Swayze, Gary Busey, Lori Petty, and Flea. Like, it's or Anthony Kiedis, whoever's in that movie. Like, it's those people and that time that make that movie. It's what make people love it. It's the Swayze Reeves romance, you know. That's why people love Point Break.
Yeah, dude. I completely agree with you. Anyway, we got to wrap this video up, guys. Camera's dying too much.
I'm sure we'll think of more
subscribe
movies.
to The Real Rejects.
Subscribe.
Reasons to Jerry movie reviews.
Yeah,
Dank, Stubs, another podcast. I have trailer reaction reviews. YouTube video reaction discussions. I have what sounds like a bar.